Welcome to another edition of the Show Me Hoops podcast, the number one basketball podcast in the state of Missouri. Today I'm going to talk about a guy who is near and dear to my heart, Mr. Larry Mosley. Rest in peace. Larry passed away a couple of years ago, and I sure do miss him. But what I'm going to talk about today is simple genius, which I thought was a great topic to describe Larry Mosley. Now, first, let me give him a proper introduction and just tell you who he was. Larry Mosley was school custodian at Scott County Central. At least he was when I was going to school there. He worked for the school for years, drove a bus, worked at the school, and simple genius is a great way to describe a guy when you think about, somebody like Larry he was just an everyman, just a common person, worked at the school. You would not have put that together with like coaching genius, but Larry is one of the sharpest basketball minds that I've ever been around. He's the first coach that I ever played for. He is the first coach that so many players that came through Scott County Central over like a 30-year period played for. And so, he really taught me how to play in the first place. But more important than teaching me how to play, he taught me to love the game. And so, for that, I'm forever grateful because I ended up growing up and becoming a basketball coach, and now I'm a school administrator. And I might have grown up and been good at something else or done something else with my life, but I can guarantee you I would not have grown up and picked basketball as a career if not for Larry Mosley. And so I'll always love him for that. I'll never forget the day that Larry died. I got the phone call right when I was pulling in the driveway at my house, and I don't think I got out of the car for an hour. I just sat in the car and cried like a baby when they told me that Larry had passed away. That's how much he meant to me. We had a great relationship. And if you're not familiar with Scott County Central and why Larry matters so much, just beyond, whatever impact he had on my life, I'm a nobody. But, Scott County Central, we've won 18 state championships there. Larry Mosley really had a hand, I would say, in at least a dozen of those state championships. Probably, I would say 14 of those state titles, the players on those teams came through Larry's elementary program. And so when you stop and think about that for just a minute, there's nobody in the state of Missouri that's had a bigger impact on that many generations of players who's not a high school coach who's already in the Hall of Fame. You think about the legends like Ronnie Cookson, who was the coach at Scott County Central, or a Lennis McFerrin at Charleston and New Madrid, or like a Floyd Irons who was at Vashon, Jim Bidwell at Porterville. There's different coaches around the state and other parts of Missouri that were also great coaches. But, Larry's impact on the game was just tremendous. And so, simple genius. I'm going to try to give you my opinion on why he was such a good teacher of the game. This is a story that will demonstrate that. I'm in the fourth grade. It's one of our first practices. We're out there playing basketball. And if you know how little kids play when they're first learning how to play basketball, it just looks like a Charlie Brown cartoon where a bunch of kids running around like in one big pile of dust, And so I'm dribbling the ball, running around in a circle. These other kids are chasing me around, the defense and my own teammates. Hey, I'm open. I'm dribbling. Larry stops the game, and he says, give me that ball. So I throw Larry the ball. Larry takes another basketball that's sitting on the stage, throws it into me, and I've never asked Larry this story, and since he's passed away, I guess I won't get to ask him until we're having this conversation on the other side, but I don't know if Larry did this on purpose, if he planned for it, or if it was just spontaneous. I would imagine it was probably just spontaneous because that's just the kind of guy Larry was. He kept things so simple that he saw the adjustment to be made on the fly so simply because he didn't overtalk anything. So he throws this new ball into me. He says, now try it again. So I take off dribbling this new ball. And first bounce, the ball doesn't bounce at all. It's completely flat. I said, Larry, this ball doesn't have any air in it. He looked at me with that one-of-a-kind grin that he had. Larry was missing a couple of teeth, so when he had a beautiful smile, but it was one-of-a-kind smile. And so when he smiled at me, he just looked at me and said, "I know you dribble too much." And that was Larry's way of telling us, not just me, but probably in particular me, hey, stop dribbling so much and you guys pass and cut. He made us play with the flat basketball. That was just Larry, just keeping it really simple. Another thing that Larry would do, I can remember messing up in a game and, being a young kid, 4th, 5th grade, coming to the sideline. And, like most players, I don't want to feel like I'm being singled out. I don't want to feel like I'm being blamed. I never saw Larry get mad before. I never saw him get angry or lose his temper with a kid. Maybe every now and then he'd, talk a little sterner than others, but he never raised his voice at us or cursed at us or anything like that. But I would come to the side after I messed up, and Larry would say, "David, how did he score right there?" And, I might offer some kind of excuse or, in my mind, what was an explanation. Well, Larry, this is what happened right here. Well, this other guy got in my way, and I got screened. And he would say this. He would say, "You mean to tell me," that's how he always started, "you mean to tell me that your man dribbled all the way over there, and he did all of this right here, and you couldn't get back in front of him?" And the point of that is, he always taught you by asking you a question, okay? Which was in contrast to Coach Cookson. As I got a little older, Coach Cookson might ask a question and you better not give an answer. It really was a rhetorical question that did not require an answer at all. But Larry would teach with a question and say, "You mean to tell me that he did this right here and you couldn't stop it?" And he would ask the question in a way that would lead you to see, man, that was a really stupid answer on my part, and I see now what I have to do. But he was a great teacher in the questions that he asked you, and he was a great teacher in making things so simple that even a young kid like myself and my teammates could understand. Like I said, he was an integral part to, probably 13 or 14 state championship teams. When we got to 7th grade to play for Ronnie Cookson, Coach Cookson's Hall of Fame coach, and there's been a million articles written about how great a coach he is, and they're all true. Coach Cookson's a great coach. He deserves all the credit that he's got. But I promise you right now, when we got to 7th grade, we were ready to play because Larry had taught us how to play. And so, just so fortunate growing up to get to play for a guy like him. And again, I titled this one Simple Genius because Larry was a genius at keeping things simple, which Coach Cookson, when I got into high school, he was kind of the same way. So I think the two of them worked really well together. But I would ask this to you. I always try to do these things as, kind of ways to help other coaches or help other players. Coaches, if you're listening to this out there, how simple are you keeping things for your kids? Are you over-coaching it? Are you over-teaching it? Are you keeping it on a level where your players can understand, whether they're young kids or they're older kids? And then the second thing would be, are you instilling that love for the game into your players? And I would challenge every coach listening to this, ask yourself that question and be honest with yourself. I mean, really be honest with yourself, because we get so bogged down sometimes in winning and losing because this is our livelihood. And, if you're a high school coach especially, your job may depend on whether or not you win or lose this year. And I understand that. I'm a superintendent of a school now. I work with the school board, and I understand what goes on in those board meetings. I've been in board meetings before where I saw a coach, kind of headed for the end of the plank. They're about to have to jump in with the Sharks. And so I get it. But if you could take a step back for just a minute and ask yourself that question and give yourself an honest answer, what am I doing to help instill a love for the game with these players? And if you think back to when you started, when did you love the game as a coach? When did you love it? We were all players before we became coaches, and we loved to play. That's why we became coaches. I can tell you, for me, that was instilled in me by a man named Larry Mosley. He taught me to love the game because he kept it so simple and he made it so fun. And so that would be my challenge to you. That was Larry's simple genius. He made the game so easy to understand, and he made it so fun. If you can do that with your young kids especially, I'm telling you, good things are going to be in the future of your program. Everybody's not going to be blessed with the talent and the families that Scott County Central had that came through there. You're talking about several large families with 8, 9 kids per family that had multiple good athletes out of each family that came through there and kept that program going. But they weren't just good athletes. They were good players. We had been schooled from the time we were little, and it's because we were taught to love the game. I was telling somebody a story the other day. We always had a pair of shorts on under our pants, always, for 2 reasons. One, in case you got paddled at school, you had that extra layer. But number 2, if a game broke out, we're stripping those jeans off, and we've already got our shorts on. We're ready to go. That was just a love of the game that was taught to not just me, but generations of players who all played for one guy he was just a special guy, and that was Larry Mosley. So I appreciate you listening to this. And again, coaches, think about that. Instill that love of the game and keep it simple for especially your young players. Players, if you're listening to this, you get bogged down too as a player. You get into the middle of the season and you say, man, it's not fun anymore. I'm not getting enough shots. I'm not getting enough playing time. I would challenge you, just go back and try to remember a time when it was fun and when you loved it. Why was it fun and why did you love it? It wasn't necessarily a coach that made you feel that way. It might have been another reason. It might have been your cousin. It might have been your mom. It might have been your dad. Whatever. But try to get back to that place, where you love to play the game. Remember why you started to love it in the first place. I guarantee you're going to start playing better. And so that's my advice for today. I appreciate you listening. Check out the website, justwintoday.com. We've got new stuff on there every day, new videos, new articles, something that might motivate you, try to help you have a good day. That's the whole point of it. It's for teachers, coaches, parents, students, to everybody that's out there that's listening to this. So we appreciate all the support, all the feedback. If you like it, share it. Have an awesome day. JWT.